How many times are you gonna make the same mistake?
Sometimes you do things wrong. I don't bother you about everything.
Maybe it's just because you're doing everything wrong.
Sometimes she would say things that she didn't necessarily feel in her heart, but her anger made her say these things. And I didn't know whether to take these things serious or not. So I started to take some of the things she said serious, such as she doesn't need me. And then I said, okay, I'll go out and I'll make it so that you don't have to be with me anymore. So I cheated.
I wasn't really upset the fact that he cheated on me. I was upset about the fact that he lied to me when I asked him. It bothers me when anyone lies to me, but more so when a loved one who I put my trust in, you understand, lies to me.
It didn't make me happy because that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be with my wife, but she pushed me away so much that I had to cheat.
So that was just a struggle within itself, just making the decision on what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run like I usually do, or I'm gonna stay in and just fight.
We know a fair amount of what prompts people to infidelity and with whom and whether they act on it. The two main factors, not surprisingly, are your primary relationship is not going that well and there's good opportunities. In successful marriages, most people don't act on it because it's a violation of trust to the partner.
Affairs happen in relationships that have accepted emotional distance, where people are lonely and they're not reaching out toward one another. So that's what has to be rebuilt.
Does love really have to be this hard? Some scientists think so. In almost every species, sex is a much bigger investment for females than for males because females have to carry, bear, and raise the young. This basic biological fact may cause men and women to seek very different things in their romantic partners.
Around the world, in all 37 cultures that I studied, we found two important clusters of sex differences. One was a cluster that men valued more than women. Youth, men placed a greater premium on physical appearance than women did. It's not that women didn't value it, women do, but they don't value it as much as men. Women placed a greater emphasis on a man's ambition. Does he have goals? Does he have drive? Does he have social status? Is he respected by his peers? Men value cues to fertility, and women value cues to resources.
Given these basic differences between men and women, maybe the real question isn't why romantic relationships end, but why they ever last. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Steve and Rebecca Tobias have been married for 40 years, but they've had to deal with some difficult issues along the way.
Look at you. This is when we met at college, 1966.
No, we met in 65, December.
Oh, yeah.
This was the following spring.
This was the following spring.
Right.
Oh, here's our wedding.
There it is.
We grew up together, really, even though we knew each other for 2 years or so before we got married. He said when we met, if you want to stick with me, you have to know that one of the things I want to do is travel around the world with a backpack someday.
They traveled together across Europe and North Africa and settled in San Francisco, where they renovated an old house together.
I love this one.
Yeah,
We have 2 sons, born 2 years apart.
Yep.
I love that.
Steve and Rebecca seemed to have it right. They were doing many of the things that research tells us are critical to a happy marriage.
What it takes to have a relationship that is vibrant and lively and exciting, turns out from the research so far, we know at least 2 things that bring in the positive. One is what's called capitalization, and that is getting excited about your partner's successes and building on them, capitalizing on them. The other is making your life together exciting.
Dr. Art Aaron has been studying what happens when couples share novel and exciting experiences.
I'm going to tie your legs and your arms together.
In his laboratory, he asked some couples to do a familiar task, and he asked others to do something he felt confident they'd never tried before.
Go.
Dr. Aaron had the couples crawl back and forth across an obstacle course, making them work together against the clock.
There was even some success if they made the time limit, and we always rigged it so they did.
Tom, you made it. Congratulations.
It's not surprising that this somewhat silly task gave couples a few minutes of fun. What is surprising is that a few minutes of fun actually changed the way these couples interacted and felt about each other.
What we found is that those couples who spent the 5 minutes doing the exciting, novel, challenging activity had a substantially greater increase from before to after in their reported love for their partner. We think the process is basically one of association, that when you do something novel and challenging, it creates an exhilaration and excitement in your life. If that's done with your partner as a team, then that novelty and challenge is associated with the relationship.
But novelty alone is not enough to sustain a marriage. Partners must also fulfill each other's needs. And sometimes their needs are in conflict.
I had low self-esteem, and I had a lot of anxiety about work. When I'd come home, it was like a cloud over the house. I would brood. I'd be unavailable. I'd be not present.
We moved several times because of job changes. So the instability and insecurity around our future made me very anxious and stressed. I think at that time, I might have thought it's mostly you. The problem's mostly you and your insecurities.
You didn't think you had a problem?
I don't know that I thought I had a problem.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When you were very depressed, you would come to me from this needy, kind of sad point of view, and that wasn't very attractive. You didn't approach me as a strong man. I was angry, and I thought, I'm not going to take care of you in this way.
There was endless thinking about, is it her, is it me, is it us? And it was painful.
Steve and Rebecca set aside their problems and buried themselves in the hard work of raising a family. But when their youngest left home, their difficulties reemerged and intruded into the bedroom.
Steve is much more sensual and wants more physical contact than I do. Steve said to me, I want a sexual relationship. And if you're not willing to really work on that with me, then this isn't going to work out.
I said, if I can't expect to have a next sexual encounter, it's not a marriage and I won't stay in it.
I was satisfied with our companionship and our activities and so on, and that I could live without a sex life. But once Steve made it very clear, I realized that I had to really look at this issue and really try to deal with it.
Steve and Rebecca went to individual therapy and to couples counseling.